Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to do a quick video about kind of what I've been doing to kind of help ourselves save money on our grocery budget. So basically, long story short, we've been dealing with the house build. We're finally getting into like the later half of our house build, so it's exciting, but it's also really stressful because there's a lot of bills right now, and like I don't know how people do it, like to build, unless like you have a ton of money. It's really hard. So one of the things that I felt like I could do to help out our family was to basically find ways to cut down on our grocery budget when you're super broke, because a lot of times I feel like a lot of advice you get, you've probably heard before, but some of the stuff is things that I have noticed more so recently that have kind of helped us save a few bucks here and there, because hey, every dollar counts, right? So anyway, without further ado, I'll get started. So I have 10 things to kind of help you guys save on your grocery budget when you're like super broke like we are. Number one, always have a plan. So meal planning, of course, is super important. I know most people have heard this before, but having at least a rough idea of what you're going to be eating through the week, it helps cut down on impulse purchases. I try to do it, and then I order everything on my grocery app, and then if there's any stuff that's on sale, I will go to that store once by myself, and I'll just get all the things on sale that I wanted to get at that store, because there's a store that we have that's a little bit more expensive, but you can get better prices for the sale items, so that's what I do. Second thing, keep things simple. I struggle with overcomplicating things, trying to make sure that there's just enough of this, just enough of that. You know what? Sometimes you just gotta keep it simple, like tacos and a little bit of lettuce, or, you know, spaghetti and meat sauce. Just like finding like the simple meals that you grew up with generally are the cheapest meals. Number three, go for cheaper cuts of meat. So one thing that like most people do is they'll do like boneless, skinless chicken breast because it is a little bit healthier, less calories. But I think my mom was the one that kind of opened my eyes to this. So in a lot of stores, you can get the leg quarters from like Walmart, and they normally come in like a giant bag, and they're like less than $1 a pound. And you can get, it's basically dark meat, but the thing about it is it might be a little bit more calories, but if you're super broke, you don't really have the luxury of like, I guess, buying like fancier cuts of meat that might be a little bit healthier. Chicken is still healthy. Even dark meat chicken is healthy. But my mom would always buy these, and then she would buy them, and you normally get like a 5-pound bag, and you'd probably, I think she would separate it into at least like 4 or 5 different 5 or 1 pound things. And then I boil it in water, cook it up, and then I normally shred it, pull it off the bone, and throw it in our food. It has cut down on so much, because you can buy like 2 of those big bags. That's 10 pounds, and that can get you 10 meals worth of chicken. So other things too, like steak, you know, you can find lesser cuts of meat. I also know there are places that do clearance meat, and I know it sounds gross, but a lot of times if you take it and put it straight into your freezer in like a freezer safe bag, it will stay good. It's just, it's been on the rack for, you know, maybe a few more days than it should be, but it's not bad. Of course, you got to be careful, because some stuff, they might try to sell you crap stuff, but I have never had that problem. So there's a store around here called Safeway, and they actually have meat on clearance a lot, and you can get like 30-50% off decent cuts of meat. But my biggest thing is like, we don't have the luxury of being picky about our meat sometimes. We get healthy meat, we make sure it's good meat, but we're not going to necessarily be picky about it, whether it be boneless, skinless chicken breast or bone-in chicken leg quarters, because quite frankly, it's cheaper, it tastes just as good, and it works for us. Before, this is something that I've started doing that it's kind of weird, but it works out for me. Do the same meal twice. So a couple weeks ago, I bought stuff to make this. It's like a green chili chicken, like casserole thing. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but you basically make like cream cheese, sour cream, like green chilies, and then like spring onions, and you basically mix it all together, put it on top of chicken. It's really good. We eat it with a little bit of rice, you know, giant bag of regular brown rice works really well. And it's like, I normally have like double at least of all the ingredients, because when you buy it, you can't buy like 1 or 2 little sprigs of green onions. You always have to buy it in a bunch. So I plan to do that meal again, the next week, because even the can of corn that you use half, it's like a cup or half a cup of can of corn, so you can make 2 servings in 1 can. So I just save the rest in the fridge, and then you do it twice. That's a way to cut down on kind of your waste too, because I find like if I buy stuff and it just sits in the fridge, it drives me crazy. So it's another way to use up your extra ingredients. So I know it's kind of weird, but it makes sense, and I know sometimes you can get tired of it, but it's just next week you rotate something else in. So it has worked for us. Number 5, opt for frozen fruits or vegetables. So a lot of people like to get fresh fruit, which is great, super good for you, but a lot of times the frozen fruit is picked when it's ripe and then it's frozen like almost right away. Now I will admit that it's not always cheaper, but a lot of times you can save a little bit, and also it lasts longer too. So it's more so like we got a big bag of frozen blueberries and we've been putting it in oatmeal. It works well because I still have it, and I've had it for 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's still good. It just stays frozen and the girls love it, and even if they want to, I like pour some out, they thaw it out, and they eat it, like eat blueberries with a spoon. Sometimes it's hard to not have things go bad, especially like fresh fruits and vegetables. So this is a way you can kind of make things last longer, but also you don't have to worry about not eating healthy, because the goal is always we need to eat healthy, but sometimes you got to do it on a really strict budget. Number 6, speaking of eating healthy, rethink health foods. So I am a victim of this, and let's be honest, the health and wellness industry is like a multi-billion-dollar industry every year. And I really think that they advertise stuff just to get you to buy it, but not really expecting you to use all of it up. And I fall into this trap all the time, and it's like rethink these really expensive like health foods that probably aren't really that good for you, or at least marginally better for you than just getting like regular fresh of whatever they're talking about. The one exception I have to this is protein drinks, because certain protein drinks I find they help me stay fuller longer, and if you like break it down like per cost, like per scoop, it's not really that much more expensive. But if you can afford it, don't buy it. Realistically, rethink health foods. If you're trying to do like a fancy specialized diet, maybe take a break from that until the whole goal is this is a temporary situation. But the whole goal is to find ways to save money, and sometimes maybe even being on a diet can be expensive, like keto diets, all these different supplements they want you to take on diets. It's expensive, and it's a lot of money. So rethink health foods. Number 7, go for things that you know your kids love. Like, I know a lot of people don't like this, but I'm like, have chicken nuggets and french fries one night a week. It's a simple, easy meal. It's normally not too expensive, and your kids will like it. Sometimes I let my kids pick the meals for the week. Like one week we did macaroni, cheese, and hot dogs. We had tacos, which I try to like health them up, because I'll put like frozen vegetables in the macaroni and cheese, so at least there's some vegetables in it. I'll put, like have a taco salad instead of tacos. I think they wanted chili one night. I do the same thing. I'll like cut up bell peppers, and I'll put like vegetables in these types of things to keep them healthy. But I cannot explain to you how many times I have tried to get my kids to eat something that I made that's supposed to be healthy, and they hate it. And so it's wasted food. So be realistic about what your kids will eat. Be realistic about what your kids will eat, because if we're being honest, they won't eat anything super fancy anyways, and keep things, I guess that goes with keep things simple. If they like it, great. Number 8, I know this is kind of different, but one thing that we've been trying to do is go for soup once a week. Sometimes I even just use up all the leftover vegetables that we have, and I might cook up some hamburger, put it in with some beef broth, and basically have like a hamburger soup of some sort. A lot of times you can throw in barley or throw in a little bit of, what is it called? Like macaroni, and it makes a soup. It's super cheap, super easy, and another way I make it better is I make homemade bread rolls, which is another really easy recipe. So then you have something, I always feel like I have something kind of fresh and good that goes with soup, because I know I'm not a huge soup fan, but obviously it really cuts down on your spending, and it also is healthy too, because you're putting a ton of vegetables and broth. And I think I heard it said that like eating like a brothy soup once a week is actually really good for your body, like digestion wise, I guess. So that's definitely something that has helped us save. Number 9, another thing, meatless once a week. We try to do like, sometimes we will do just like pasta and tomatoes, or like spaghetti without the meat sauce, or, you know, beans and rice we did one time, and it was actually really good. You can add other things, and so a lot of times meat is one of our biggest expenses. So if we do just once a week without meat, it's a little bit healthier for you because they say you shouldn't be eating a ton of meat, but in other ways it also saves on your budget. Last thing is learn to make some things from scratch. So I have been learning to cook things like bread rolls or biscuits, because I mean, you get the big thing of Grand's biscuits, it's like $3. And we do biscuits and gravy for like birthday dinners and stuff. So I'm learning how to make stuff from scratch. Try to see what you can make from scratch, that all you need is like a little bit of flour, sugar, water, yeast, whatever. You'd be shocked at how cheap some of that stuff can be. Now, obviously, we can't make everything from scratch, but I do feel like that does help cut down a little bit on the grocery budget. So if you guys like this, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope that this has helped you guys out with some suggestions to save money on your groceries when you're like super broke.